What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Mill, if you like. So let's get into it. So today we want to take a look at the Steelers' defense versus the Cowboys' offense. So this is where I think the game could be won or lost for the Dallas Cowboys because the Steelers have a terrific defense. They have threats at all three levels. Whether you're talking about Patrick Queen or Cameron Hayward or Minka Fitzpatrick, they can make the game extremely difficult for you. So they do have quite a few injuries, but most of their injuries are to their depth part, save Alex Highsmith. The Cowboys kind of caught a little bit of a break there with Alex Highsmith being out this week because dude's a beast, but they have so many beasts that I don't know if it'll necessarily make a huge difference as far as whether the Steelers' defense can stop the Cowboys' offense. So when you start on the defensive line, you have to start with two names. You have to start with Cameron Hayward. You have to start with T.J. Watt. Both of those guys can wreck the game for the Dallas Cowboys. We have Tyler Guyton over there, who's a rookie offensive tackle. So I'm pretty sure the Steelers will initially start out having T.J. Watt hunt our rookie offensive tackle to see if he can win on multiple snaps. And then you have Cameron Hayward, who's a veteran, defensive end, but the Steelers do play the 3-4. So he's going to be lining up over, Zach Martin and Terrence Steele, and then sometimes he'll be lined up over Tyler Smith and Tyler Guyton. If I'm the Steelers, you don't want to do this all the time because then the Cowboys could just go away from where it's lined up. But in certain situations, I would line Cameron Hayward up on the same side as T.J. Watt and then see what the Cowboys can do as far as stopping those guys because both of them are beasts, man. They are beasts. I really think the Cowboys need to be worried. And then Patrick Queen, he's a really good linebacker. He was great for the Ravens last year. He's been really good for the Steelers this year. So you kind of have to look out for him as well, whether it's in coverage, whether it's on rundowns, whether it's coming on blitzes. I think Queen can make the day really difficult for you. They did actually draft the rookie Peyton Wilson, who looked really good at linebacker in his college tape, and he's a rookie this year. I wonder if he'll get to play much against the Dallas Cowboys. You also have Joey Porter, who they've been kind of using to follow around the other team's best wide receiver. He had a little bit of a rough game this past week against the Indianapolis Colts, but all in all, he's a pretty good corner. I wonder if he will follow CeeDee Lamb whenever CeeDee Lamb is matched up on the outside. But as we know, the Cowboys do line up CeeDee Lamb all over the different places in the formation, whether it's in the slot, left, right, whatever. He lines up all over the place. So some of the issues for the Cowboys going against the Steelers defense this week is A, I already pointed out the two rookies. B, also the absence of Brandon Cooks. He's going to be out this week based on a knee infection. Looks like he had a little bit of a knee issue that he tried to stay behind in New York and get cleaned up, and then he ended up with an infection based off that. So he's going to be out, which is going to, I believe, elevate Ryan Flournoy. And also, as far as the players who have been on the roster, move Jalen Tolbert into the 2 slot as far as wide receivers, maybe not as far as targets. I still think Jake Ferguson is your number 2 as far as targets, especially now a couple of weeks removed from that knee injury. But as far as your number 2 wide receiver, Jalen Tolbert's going to be basically promoted, from the 3 guy to the 2 guy. Jalen Brooks will probably be promoted from the 4 guy to the 3 guy, and then you'll probably have a combination of Kevontae Turpin and Ryan Flournoy running that 4th guy in the offense to try to get targets from Dak Prescott. So how do the Cowboys win? How do they solve this Pittsburgh Steelers puzzle? So first off, I believe it's going to come down, sounds repetitive, to the Cowboys passing game. I've said that a lot of times this year, and it's because the Cowboys running game is so inconsistent and the Cowboys refuse to adjust what they're doing, right? So the Cowboys will use the same typical running game that they use, which is for the last few weeks, it's kind of been Rico Dowdle getting a 2-1 over Ezekiel Elliott, and then Rico Dowdle getting more of a 4 or 5-1 over the 2 remaining backs, which is Deuce Vaughn and Hunter Lipke. Until the Cowboys decide that they're going to change that ratio, we're going to get the same thing we've been seeing, right? Rico Dotto will look good, but he'll max out at 12 to 13 carries, right? And then you'll get Deuce Vaughn used in a way that he's not supposed to be used, which is running up the middle, between the guards, between the tackles. He'll get that for maybe 1 to 3 carries. You'll get, Hunter Lipke, maybe 1 to 3 carries. And then the rest of the carries will go to Ezekiel Elliott for maybe 5 to 7 carries. And that'll be the offense's running game. You'll probably see, CeeDee Lamb get 1 to 3 carries. You'll probably see Cavante Turpin get 1 to 3 carries. Maybe Dak Prescott gets 1 to 3 carries. I don't know if you notice a trend here between 1 to 3 carries between all these different people. I really think the Cowboys are doing themselves a disservice by not just deciding, hey, this is our rotation. Rico Dotto is going to get 15 to 20 touches no matter what. No matter what, right? Then Hunter Lipke is going to get 5 to 8 touches no matter what. And then Deuce Vaughn is going to get 5 to 8 touches out in space. And if there's no more to go around for anyone else, tough shit. But if there is something to go around for anyone else, then we'll figure out how the flow of the game is going and decide who that person is, whether it's CeeDee Lamb lining up in the backfield, whether it's Cavante Turpin lining up in the backfield, but this is what the Cowboys should be doing. But by spreading it out so much between so many people, nobody really gets into a rhythm. We don't get a feel for how any of these guys are really looking, and it allows them to keep playing that same stupid game that they're playing when they go, hey, we haven't had a good chance to view the running game. Nobody's gotten into a rhythm. The games have been too far off script. It allows them all these different excuses that they've been running out here from the beginning of the season, instead of just saying, hey, Jerry Jones said we have to play Ezekiel Elliott, so he's going to get 8 touches per game. He's going to get 10 touches per game. He's going to give it 17 to 20 snaps because we have to, right? It would be much more beneficial for me as a Cowboys fan to know that and to have that said, instead of playing this facade where we're going to say one thing and we're going to do another thing, and we're going to do the definition of insanity. We're going to keep trying the same thing week after week and expecting different results, right? That's the definition of insanity. Do the same thing, expect different results. You don't get different results, but you're going to keep going back to the drawing board with those same things. Cowboys this week need to be off script. In order to be successful against this defense, they need to be off script. Whatever they've showed in the first 4 weeks obviously has not worked on offense. They need to show something different. I'm not confident that they're going to show something different. I'm pretty confident that it's going to be the same exact thing that we've seen for the last 4 weeks in week 5. Okay? So now you're going to have to make sure you're relying on CeeDee Lamb with your matchups. You're going to have to rely on Jake Ferguson. You take Brandon Cooks out, even though he hasn't necessarily been fantastic this season, it's still something else that the defense has to account for. You're taking that away. So now you're going to be just as predictable as you were with CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, but now you have a couple of people that are experienced, like Jalen Brooks and like Ryan Floridor. Floridor more inexperienced than Jalen Brooks, but you're going to be throwing those guys out there and saying, hey guys, we're still going to call the same plays. We're still going to do everything that we've been doing. It kind of reminds me of the end of the Jason Garrett tenure, where it was just very predictable. There was no, and I'm not saying trickery as in, ooh, double reverse, oh, flea flicker, oh, wide receiver gets a reverse, fakes like he's going to do it, and passes to the other wide receiver. Oh, huge big play, fake punt, we're out there, oh, go. That's not what I'm looking for when I'm looking for the Cowboys defense to be, or offense, to be unpredictable, to be creative. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more motion. I'm looking for getting out on the edges. I'm looking for getting those linemen in space. One of the things we talked about a couple of days ago when we were talking about midseason reviews of the Dallas Cowboys was getting some of those players that are having trouble, i.e. Tyler Guyton, out in space, and getting out to the edges, because you don't necessarily have to be perfect with your blocking when you get out to the edges. You just have to kind of give the running back or the wide receiver or the tight end or whoever you're running to play for a lane, right? So if you get beat to the inside, that's fine. That's fine, because now there's a lane to the outside. If you're getting beat to the outside, that's fine, because there's a lane to the inside. But let's just get them out on the edges, get them out of space, let them use their athletic ability to make plays. So against the Pittsburgh Steelers, there needs to be a lot of that, right? I don't think we're going to see a lot of that. But my job is, what I'm kind of trying to convey to you guys is, hey, how can the Cowboys solve this puzzle? How can they win? And my thinking is they can win by getting some of these players out in space, getting out some of these players out on the edges. I kind of don't want to attack the Pittsburgh Steelers right up the middle. Like when we were talking about the Ravens, when we were talking about the Giants, some of those guys I wanted to go right at them, right? Because the strength of the Cowboys offensive line is those three guys in the middle. So I would want to take advantage of that strength on most weeks. But in this week, with Hayward being in the middle and TJ Watt being very concerned with rushing the passer and the Steelers running a 3-4, we kind of have some numbers mismatches out on the edges. So I would kind of want to attack the edges of the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially in the passing game, with short, quick passes. Get them out on first and second down, and then leave yourself in third and short and have the whole playbook opened up. Maybe you can run some running plays. Maybe you can run some quick screens. Maybe you can run some slants. Maybe you can run some drags or curls. The Cowboys love their curls. So maybe you can run some of those plays if in first and second down you're having successful short passing plays to keep yourself in third and short. So the Cowboys need to make sure that against this defense, they're not in third and long situations, because if TJ Watt gets a chance to tee off on Terrence Steele, he gets a chance to tee off on Tyler Guyton, it's going to be a long freaking day. But I have a feeling that the Cowboys are actually going to allow the Steelers to tee off on some of their guys. It is what it is. We are in a very conservative portion of the season. The Cowboys are very conservative with their offensive play calling. They're not creative. They're playing right into the opposing defense's hands. Even if the Cowboys jump out right away in the first half and they get out to a, say, 10-7 lead, 10-3 lead at halftime, best believe in that second half, we're going to see the same thing we've seen for every game except for the Ravens game. That was the only game where the Cowboys decided, hey, it's the second half. We're down so much. We need to open up our offense and attack and let the chips fall where they may. And they scored, in the second half, I believe they scored 19 points against the Baltimore Ravens, which is the most in any Cowboys half this season. So the half that they decided we have to open it up and attack was their most successful half of the season. But that's something they refuse to do in the first half of games, and if they have any sort of lead, they refuse to do it in the second half of games. We need more of the open it up and attack Cowboys than we need the, all right, let's nurse this 6-point lead. Let's nurse this 3-point lead and try to get the clock ran out. Like, I understand that. That has merit when it's the fourth quarter and there's 7 minutes to go in the game and you have a 6-point or a 3-point lead. I understand nursing it and trying to bleed the clock to the point of getting out of the game. But when the game is still in the balance in the first 3 quarters, we need to be attacking more. And without Micah Parsons this week, without DeMarcus Lawrence this week, with a lot of the injuries, there's still no Deron Bland. He's not coming back this week. We probably won't have Kalen Carson. He was limited in practice. Maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't, but it's not like he was a world beater to begin with anyway. So with our defense being so banged up, and the Cowboys need to think more of attack. I'm not saying this has the look of a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying this has the look of a deep playoff team. But if the Cowboys want to salvage anything this season, they need to stop being the counter puncher and they need to throw the freaking punch, right? We need to be Mike Tyson in this game. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to be Floyd Mayweather playing with the Philly shell and defending the punches and jabbing and just kind of outpointing the opponent to the end. And even though Floyd Mayweather was awesome, right? We need to be Mike Tyson. We need to go in there throwing haymakers. We got to figure this shit out because the Cowboys are not talented enough to outpoint opponents to the end. It just can't happen. Even against the Steelers offense that doesn't necessarily score as many points as some of the teams the Cowboys have faced in the first few weeks of the season. So in order to win this game, I actually think the Cowboys need to go take this game. They need to be aggressive. They need to be creative. They need to punch the Steelers in the mouth. Now, this is anti-Cowboys, right? What have we been talking about pretty much for the last 13 years? I don't remember a Cowboys team since maybe 2014 that was physical, that was aggressive, that went out and punched the opponent in the mouth. Even Dak's 2016 season was a complete surprise, and they had a great offensive line, but they didn't go out and exactly punch opponents in the mouth. If you remember, a lot of those games were either tight in the balance, or we came out on the end, or we got out to a big lead and held on, right? So the Cowboys need to do something that they don't normally do, right? They need to break their own trend. And this Cowboys team, if they're going to be successful this season, they need to do something that they haven't done. They need to become a physical, smash mouth, punch you in your face team. So it needs to start this week because I guarantee you the Steelers are going to come out and try to punch the Cowboys in the face. And if the Cowboys are not up to the challenge, we're going to fold our tents and we're going to go home like we've been doing. So in order for me to think that the Cowboys are going to do something different as far as success this season, they need to show me something a little bit different. But I give you guys the blueprint. There is a very specific blueprint on how they need to win this game. You know, they need to come out, they need to be physical. They need to come out, they need to throw the ball early downs to keep themselves in third and short. And then they can open up the whole playbook as far as wanting to run the ball. And then as they get to do that later in the game, they need to continue to stay aggressive throwing the ball. If they have success early, they don't need to go away from it in the second half and start trying to run the ball and bleed the clock out or starting to get uncreative with play calling. The Cowboys need to continue that creative play calling for an entire 60 minutes. They need to be aggressive. If they're up by 25, try to go up by 35. If they're up by 5, try to go up by 12. They need to keep the pressure on and stomp on the Steelers' throats. Because if they don't do that, they are going to lose this game. If they play conservative like they've been the entire season, if they're worried about Tyler Guyton holding up on the outside, if they're worried about Cooper Beebe holding up on the inside, if they're throwing 2-yard flare routes to Ezekiel Elliott to try to pick up 3rd and 8, or they find themselves consistently in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. For this game, if they're getting holding penalties on first down and now they're in first down and 20, or they're getting holding penalties on second down and it's 2nd and 17, they are going to lose this game. This isn't the type of defense where you need to find yourself in constant long yardage and distance. The Cowboys will score 16 points this week, maybe, if they're doing that consistently. So we know the blueprint. We know what they need to do, and we know it can be done, right? We see a lot of other teams around the NFL, creative play calling, getting their playmakers the ball, getting them the ball in space, creating advantageous down and distances for their offenses on a consistent basis so that they can keep the ball, possess the ball, score points, no relying on Brandon Aubrey. These are all things that the Cowboys need to do. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if that actually ends up being a thing this week or if we're just kind of in Twilight Zone and we're going to just live this every single week. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hit me up on Twitter at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also hit me up in the comment sections below. You can hit me up on email, knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Also, knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. I'll take them there. I'll take them in Twitter. I'll take them in the comments, whether it's something that you want me to cover, whether it's questions that you have. If it's questions that you have, I'll put it into a mailbag segment, make it a regular format for the rest of the season. But thank you guys for tuning in. I love you so much. We're at 21 subscribers. Next goal is to get to 30. So please hit that like button if you like the show. Hit that subscribe button so that you know when I'm coming on. But until next time, I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.